Hi, it's Emma Bell here. But I wanted to just say, I got some advice for you. If you see something, or you hear something, and it doesn't sound or seem right, don't go out there.
They've conquered the big screen. Now, get ready for the spin-off sure to send chills down your spine. It's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Destin in Don't Go Out There, the series.
Big Pony Club. I'm gonna keep on dancing.
Welcome back, everybody, to DGOT, the series. We really appreciate y'all listening. We hope y'all have been enjoying these series reviews. I know we have. It's been a lot of fun. Just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. Everything about our podcast is on the website. All of our episodes and interviews, if you want to check those out. We've done some incredible interviews in the past. Go check them out there in a specific tab by themselves so you don't have to scroll through hundreds of episodes on Apple or Spotify, etc. We also have our store if you want to grab a shirt, a mouse pad, a hat, all that good stuff. We'd love to see your pictures, rep your favorite podcast. And Shan's Etsy page is also attached if you want to grab a tumbler. All of our social media links are on there as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Like us, subscribe us, follow us, all that good stuff. And the last thing I want to shout out on our website is our Patreon. We call it Blood Donors. We have the traditional monthly reoccurring kind. If you want to support us, help us pay the bills, as we say. Or if there's a movie you want us to review, that option is available as well. Just check out our website, don'tgoouthere.com. Also, if you haven't noticed, we've recently joined the Believe Network. So there's some ads on our program now. But if you want ad-free content, go check us out on Blood Donors. The ad-free episodes will be available there. We appreciate your support.
I'm super excited to continue on with The Walking Dead Season 2. Like I mentioned last week, this is a hell of a season, and I'm really excited for next week. I ain't gonna lie. Episode 7 is probably my favorite. It's one of my favorite episodes of television just in general. Like, that shit is good. That shit is elite. I love it. Can't wait to get to it next week. I'm doing the scene by scene. I'm just going to be quick. 2 more great episodes. Every single episode we've done, 1 through 6, has ended on some kind of a cliffhanger, some kind of drama with the group of people, and I'm loving it. Like, it hooked me on the Saturday. I watched it, and I couldn't stop. And every time I do my notes, I want to just keep watching it again. So, Brian, what'd you think about 5 and 6?
Like you said, I completely agree. No bad episodes so far. Again, reiterating that I was right, at least so far, in my opinion, with this being my favorite season of the show. 2 totally different tones in these 2 episodes, though. I love Chupacabra. The writing, I think, was fantastic in that one. I mean, yeah, it had some zombies, but also it had some really great character interactions and some really, really funny lines, in my opinion. Whereas Secrets fucking cranked everything up like a few notches, just with all the revelations about the barn, Lori's secret, 0 complaints on my end with these 2. It's to the point where it's hard to stop watching through, even though I've seen it all through once.
Yeah, I really like both these episodes. I know what I said in the chat earlier. It doesn't mean I don't like episode 5. I do. I happen to like episode 5. So I will say, if I had to pick a filler episode of this season, so far, it is episode 5. I don't feel like it matches the tone. And obviously, maybe that's on purpose, because Brian already touched on it. It's a fucking funny episode. There's a lot of laughs to go around and some fun character interactions and fun dialogue. And it does end on a cliffhanger. However, I feel like we spend about, 18 minutes with Daryl in the woods. I'm like, okay, like, it's not bad per se. I'm just like, why are we here for so long? Like, and why do I care about his, I don't know, extremist brother illusion that he has? Like, I don't know, but it's not bad. Episode 6, Secret, fucking great. Like, I really like it. And like you mentioned, Nico, it made me even more ready to review 7 so bad that I wish we were doing a back-to-back-to-back tonight, because it leads into 7, and 7 is great. So again, really good stuff. Not a bad episode at all. Just, if I had to pick one where I was like, I could probably skip this episode, it would be Chupacabra.
I agree. Episode 5 wasn't my favorite. Just not a whole lot happened. It wasn't a bad episode, but it was just slow. It did make me laugh quite a few times, though, so that's appreciated. And it was a good episode. It's just in comparison to the rest of the season, I agree. It's not my favorite. Episode 6 wasn't my favorite either, but it was slightly better. It had some really good tension built in, and it set us up nicely to go forward. So 2 good episodes, just not my favorite 2.
I think what I like about both episodes is it's kind of like, I don't know, this season just feels like real life. And like 5 and 6 is like, you're going to have slower days. And I just felt like I was a part of it. So I just really enjoyed it. I mean, I get if you don't like them as much, but I don't know. There's just going to be some slow days where all you do is just fucking do the laundry and pick some apples, and that's your whole day. So, I mean, I don't know. I enjoy it, though.
It's very funny you say that, Nico, because in my notes, I literally have a point. It's like, this feels like a Saturday on the couch, as opposed to episode 7 and even 8, where those feel like Saturdays at a party for your friend's birthday. Like, that's what that feels like. And then this one kind of feels like a Saturday on the couch, and it's not bad. Saturdays on the couch are fucking elite, especially the older you get. But just as far as that fun experience, it's not quite the, oh, buddy, I love a Saturday on the couch more than I like this episode. But still, it's a good episode. Yeah.
I love rotting on the couch. But anyway, let's get into the scene by
Buddy,
scene.
me too.
Episode starts with a road full of cars and folks are walking around aimlessly. Shane tunes in on the radio as the folks look into the air, hearing a helicopter. Carol offers Lori an MRE for Lori and Carl. Carol's husband is fuming, her offering food. This is survival. Lori and Shane go to take a walk up the street, leaving Carl behind. Awkward as Sophia tells Carl his dad is nice until suddenly all hell breaks loose. Shane says he's going to do what Rick wanted him to do, keep her and Carl safe. They venture to the woods, seeing helicopters napalming cities. Shane holds Lori as the Fire Walking Dead theme plays. Lori awakes and puts her boots on, frustrated she slept in on laundry day. See, that's what I'm saying. You got, GTL, gym, tan, and laundry. Carol floats the idea of cooking a big dinner for Herschel's family. Rick tells the crew they have new spots on the grid to explore to find Sophia. Daryl says he's going to take a horse as they talk about his chupacabra story. Glenn strums an old guitar as Maggie joins him on the porch. She cuts his core, saying 11 condoms is just 11 minutes of her life she won't get back. But he's still beat, though.
Damn.
Hey, he's still beat. That's a real thing, though. I mean, all right, anywho. The group is in the woods looking for Sophia as Rick makes small talk about girls to get Shane to open up and talk. They keep trekking on, and Shane says they shouldn't be talking about this. All these folks are dead and gone. Shane says nostalgia can blind you from seeing things right, questioning why they're looking in the woods for a girl they know is likely dead. I hate to agree with Shane, but I think he's right. You got to make tough decisions at a certain point in this world they're in. Shane snaps, wondering what the hell they're doing, as Rick says he looked her in the eyes and failed her. Shane notices they made it into T-Dog's grid. Daryl shoots a squirrel with his arrow and continues through the woods. He spots something in the water and ties the horse up. He finds Sophia's doll and retrieves it, yelling out her name. He gets back on the horse, and nervous Nellie is scared by some birds until they come up on a rattlesnake, which really startles the horse, causing it to toss Daryl, who takes a nasty spill to the water below and stabs himself with an arrow through the side. Brian, that's the opening set of scenes. What do you think?
So this is the first episode to be written by David Leslie Johnson, and was actually initially hired as a freelance writer for the show. But Johnson would go on to contribute scripts for the next 9 seasons, including one of the show's most acclaimed entries, and I'm sure will be Nico's favorite when he gets to it. Here's Negan in 2021. He also wrote episode 9 of this season as well, so we'll get to that in 2 weeks. But a lot of my notes have to do with this cold open, because I love seeing this flashback to the night on the interstate. As painful as it is to see Lori and Shane, I do think that we needed to see this as an audience from a lot of different perspectives, including those two. And I will say, I do think it's a little odd to see Carl tell Sophia that his dad was dead, but yet in the first season, we see him actively looking for Rick, like every time a new person comes to camp, right? So that seemed a little bit off. So like, if he still had hope that he is still alive, and him and Lori, if I recall, every time somebody pulled up, they were looking for him, I felt like that was a little weird for him to say, my dad's dead. But Barenthal's reaction when he sees the military bombing the city, I thought was fantastic. It's just, what a damn opening. And then we cut to the tent with Lori waking up, and I completely get mad all over again because I remember she was pregnant like right then. I was like, fuck. And is this Jimmy? Is this the kid's name? Like, who is this kid? This isn't, I assumed at first he was Herschel's son, like we were talking about a couple of episodes ago, how they never get mentioned. But in the next set of scenes, he tells Rick they aren't kin. So who the fuck is this kid?
Best boyfriend.
Oh, interesting. So we really don't, I guess, see his sons and know some of those dudes that were at the Otis's funeral. But anyway, regardless, though, the exchange with he and Daryl is fantastic. You believe in Chupacabra? You believe in dead people walking around? I thought that was hilarious.
good.
Great comeback. I want a gun. Well, people in hell want a Slurpee. It's just fucking Daryl kills it. And then immediately we get the exchange like Nico touched on with Glenn and Maggie. You see 11 condoms. I see 11 minutes of my life. I'm never getting back. Holy shit. Johnson was in his bag right in this episode. Like, I laughed a lot. Even in the exchange with Rick and Shane and his exploits in high school. Is a prodigy, a high school kid banging 30-year-olds on the regular, but the PE teacher, and he said, Mr. Daniels? Like, that made me laugh. I died. That seemed like some exchange me and you would have or something. That was funny. But it did take a serious turn talking about how everyone they know is dead. And I don't know if these two have another like real heartfelt conversation like this that I can remember. It was a good exchange, a good start to a great opening so far.
Yeah. So, Nico, really quick, you mentioned GTL. In this world and universe, technically, they would be aware of Jersey Shore's existence because Jersey Shore started in 2009 and Walking Dead started in 2010. So, technically, they would at least know of Snooki's existence, which that makes me want to be one of the walkers at that point. Anyway, I agree with you, Brian. I like that we're getting this flashback scene here, this look into the past, right? I mean, it's a glimpse of we're early into this, and we don't get a lot of this early on here, right? We kind of get this post Rick's, hospital stay there and everything. And so I really like this look back, but my man Shane was already just all over Lori for no fucking, I mean, goddamn, I know he was trying to be quote unquote protective. Nah, man, that's not being protective. Go fuck yourself. Again, I know Rick is like a cop and I like Rick, but like also what makes him just this automatic presidential figure? We didn't vote. I mean, it would be better than Stephen A. Smith being president, but that's just me. I'm sorry, Nico, but I saw Glenn play the guitar and all I could think was The Longest Yard. It's how an Asian man plays a guitar right there. And I agree. That is how an Asian man plays guitar. Not very well. Anyway, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Mean. I hate it because I really fucking love this scene with Rick and Shane. I mean, I really love how their on-screen chemistry is. I love the dialogue. You mentioned a lot of the one-liners. Fucking hilarious. It reminds me of me hanging out with my friends back in the day. Like, that's what this feels like. But it is unfortunate that it came with these two, I suppose. But again, Shane was living our high school dream, brother. I mean, Jesus Christ, good for him. He was hitting, and I'm proud of him. Look,
He was a victim.
I understand where Shane's coming from here. Anyway, sure, pal. Okay. All right. Yep, you're right. He was a victim. Anywho, I understand where Shane is coming from here about stopping, the search for Sophia, but what the fuck else are they doing? Are they really wasting that much resource and time looking for the girl? Like, I don't think so. They're not doing anything else. Like Nico mentioned, this is a lazy day at their house ranch thing. Like, I don't think they're doing anything else. Might as well look for. I would personally have Daryl in charge because he's fucking funny and he seems to really know his way around a bow. So again, by the way, really quick question for the group here. Have you guys ever been thrown by a horse? It fucking sucks. It sucks exactly like as bad as that looked. So anyway,
I did when I was like 4 or 5 or so. There's a pony. And that's why now I'm like Eric Berry. I don't mess with them horses. I come over and throw a tantrum.
It wasn't at the Pink Pony Club? Anyway, go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, great look at the highway being backed up, like how it got there and showing us how the group kind of formed. And it's a good look at how Ed always sucked. But it's kind of oddly placed to me. Like at this point, the story has progressed so much that I'm not sure that was needed. But with them bombing Atlanta, I just hope that they hit Truist Park. Braves suck. Hearing Carol call Lori the unofficial first lady, that was a nice touch. It shows that their group recognizes Rick as their leader. I get what you're saying, Mike, that there wasn't no election or anything, but he's the one making the decisions and they follow him. So whether he wants to or whether they want to or not, he is the leader. Glenn and Maggie's back and forth. That was hilarious. Him saying they still have 11 condoms and her saying she sees 11 men she'll never get back. I laughed. That was good. And And Rick, funny back and forth with Rick and Shane, just dudes being dudes, but it's short-lived as Shane derailed it. But he did make some good points here. I also see Rick's side of the story, so I felt like Donatello in Ninja Turtles 2, when he's like, he's right. He's right. They're both right. Like that's how I felt. Daryl finding the doll, that was a nice addition too, because it really looked like a hopeless search, and that added some optimism. But my Lord, how did he see that thing? Man has incredible vision. He was up on the side of the mountain, just happened to look down through the trees into the water, and he saw that doll. I would have missed it. Nothing major really happened, but it was still a decent enough open.
Daryl hobbles out the water, clutching his side. He tourniquets his wound, realizing how high his climb back up is. He grabs a stick until he hears a rumbling in the bushes. He finds his crossbow in the water and starts his climb up the hill. Glenn follows Lori and asks if she's pregnant. She begs him not to tell anyone, and he questions why she hasn't told Rick. Lori notices something is wrong with Rick, and he tells her about the talk with Shane. His good intentions are making the group weaker. Lori stops him and says he isn't being soft. None of us were prepared for life like this. Rick leaves to go meet with Herschel as we cut back to Daryl, who is halfway up the hill, but loses grip and takes another roll down the hill. Herschel asks Rick about the missing horse and Jimmy. He's only 17 and these things need cleared by him. Herschel says it's simple. I take care of mine and you control your people. And Rick walks away. Daryl awakes to a familiar face, his brother Merle. He tells him he's having a shitty day, bro. Merle gives him a hard time and is upset he's not out looking for old Merle anymore. You Rick's bitch now? He calls Daryl a freak and redneck trash to a bunch of slurs. They ain't your kin, your blood. If you got any nuts left in your sack, you'd go and shoot Rick in the face for me. He has Daryl get up and Daryl awakes, snapping out of it, realizing a walker is about to bite his leg. Another walker appears and he layeth the smackdown on the first walker. He removes the arrow from his side and shoots the second one, through the noggin. Daryl gets up seeing the two dead walkers and packs his shirt on his wound, saying Merle was right. He eats a squirrel from earlier and makes a necklace of ears and starts his trek up the hill again. Merle appears again, laughing at him, calling him Darlena. The two guys argue. Merle says he's as real as his chupacabra. He keeps insulting him to motivate him to make it to the top. Daryl makes it up and Merle is gone. Yeah, you better run, Daryl yells. All right, Brian's the next set of scenes. What do you think?
I really do honestly wish that I didn't know that Daryl was such a fan favorite and lived on. Like just from pop culture, before the first time I watched this. And I think that this is why maybe it ran on a little long for Mike. But the way that this is all set up, even with Daryl hallucinating Merle, you really do think that he's not going to make it. So I really am jealous about those who got to see this live, because that's what you do on a series when you're killing off a character. I mean, you bring that back, that important dead figure, to speak to them as a ghost, like they're dying, et cetera, et cetera. So I really felt like, you know what? They're making it seem like he's going to die. And I wish I didn't know that he didn't. At one point during the scene where Daryl's laying on the ground hallucinating that conversation, a pained expression supposedly crosses Daryl's face. Rooker later explained that while filming, a large carpenter ant bit Reedus on the neck at that moment. He simply just kind of incorporated the pain into the scene. It was an interesting thing to also to get to see the Dixon brothers together for the first time here. This was actually Rooker's only appearance this season, and I'll leave it at that. The first time I watched this, I really did think that Daryl was going to turn, and after we figured out he was going to survive, and all the good that we saw in his character arc over the last few seasons, really, or the season and a half, was really going to go away here, and he was going to become a problem to the group. So I'm glad that they didn't turn that way completely. The transition to the walker, I thought, was great. The effects with him bashing in that one walker's head in, fantastic. After last episode, I was glad to see some dead action in this one as well. And last thing, also, Sarah Callie's reaction when Rick walks up and says, I just had a long talk with Shane. And you saw her take a big gulp. Fantastic acting there. Because you're thinking just like she is, oh shit, what does he know? You can tell this whole thing is just eating at her. It was very standout to me. Great, another great set of scenes.
I don't have a ton here because I feel like we're spending just the whole thing with Daryl minus one little, one little section. But again, we kind of spend a lot of time watching him move around, walk around here for no reason. I don't know. I'm not saying there's no purpose, because again, this is kind of like a Daryl episode, I guess. But I don't know. He's a fan favorite, and I understand that. But I feel I don't know, man. This feels like a lot of not to or repeat myself, but filler. Although I had to make a joke, of course, Glenn is the first one to figure out that Lori's pregnant. He's Asian. He's smart. He gets it. He understands. He can read. He also was the one that had to get the test. So anyway, by the way, and we talked about this in a lot of like post-apocalyptic movies. We're looking at the A Quiet Place franchise here. Just an awful time to get pregnant. Just an awful, awful time to be doing the nasty. An awful time to get pregnant. Selfish, totally ridiculous, and so friggin' annoying. Anyway, now Daryl, when he's out in the middle of nowhere, he talks to himself like I do when I'm about to lift heavy weights. I mean, he calls himself a pussy. He has to kind of motivate himself. I mean, that's how I talk to myself when I'm about to squat, 307 pounds. That's exactly what it looks like. So I can relate to Daryl here. Also, his brother fucking sucks, man. He is a walking, talking 55-year-old's Facebook post. I mean, all the shit he's saying sounds so ridiculous and over the top. But anyway, I will say whatever he was doing was working, because all of a sudden he had the strength to kill 2 walkers. Great effects. I do agree with you, Brian. After taking a little snooze, man. I mean, right out of that sleep, my man had all the strength in the world to kind of hop up and do that. All right, man. Again, that's all I had. It really does feel like the first filler episode, just because I don't know if I needed Daryl's inner monologue for about 20 minutes of the episode. It's not bad. I just kind of feel like nothing is really happening.
Yeah, we get some good tension when Daryl realizes how far down he fell, and then there's rustling in the woods. Men is literally up the creek without a paddle here. When Rick told Lori he had a long talk with Shane, her stomach was doing X Games. She had to have felt a huge relief when it was about the search and not what she and Shane did. Then, I know it was meant to be dramatic, but I laughed out loud when Daryl fell back down the hill. Like, something about people falling down, just it makes me happy. I could watch TikToks all day of people slipping on ice, so that made me laugh. Herschel's talk with Rick didn't make much sense, because his suggestion was that they each control their own people, but then he was mad at Rick for taking Jimmy with him. Jimmy is one of your people, Herschel. You got to control him. That's not on Rick. Daryl's encounter with the hallucination of Merle, that was fine and all, but I'm not buying that a walker found him laying there and just gnawed on his boot. He would be DED dead. That annoyed me, but I'm ready for the finish.
DED dead. All right, here's the ending. Herschel gets to his kitchen seeing the ladies cooking and asks Maggie what's going on. He tells her they need to set clear boundaries with them and ask about the Asian boy. She's counting on Maggie to be the mature one, saying not to get too close to them. They won't be around forever. Dale asks Andrew about being on lookout. She doesn't want to do laundry anymore. She wants to protect the camp. Glenn asks Dale if he thinks Andrea is on her period, and I thought this little conversation was funny. All the women are acting weird, wondering if their periods are cycling at the same time. Dale asks who else is acting weird. He says Maggie and spills the tea. He tells Dale Lori is acting weird too. Dale, old man, scolds Glenn, wondering if he thought about what her dad might have thought about him sleeping with Maggie. He storms out saying the book sucks. Andrea yells out Walker, but it's Daryl coming back to the camp. Rick, Shane, Glenn, and T-Dog run to the lone walker, noticing it's Daryl. He snaps on Rick, wondering if he's going to pull the trigger this time. But dumbass Andrea shoots Daryl, grazing his head, trying to be a badass, and Herschel runs out, wondering what's going on out here. Rick and Shane carry Daryl back to the house as T-Dog notices Sophia's doll on the ground. Herschel asks about his horse, surprised his group has survived as long as they have. Shane tells Rick he agrees with Herschel it's time to cut ties looking for Sophia. Lori says Shane's way is easy, as he says all he cares about is her and Carl. My son and I are not your problem anymore, she says as she walks away from him. Dale updates Andrea on Daryl and asks how he's doing. Don't be too hard on yourself. We've all wanted to shoot Daryl, he says to lighten the mood. Lori is crying, looking at her son in bed. Carol tells her dinner is ready, asking if she needs anything. Everyone is eating and it is quiet as a church mouse. Glenn asks if anyone knows how to play guitar, and they say Otis did, and he was very good, making it more awkward. Maggie slips Glenn a note asking tonight where. He passes it back to her as the old men stare. Carol takes Daryl some food and drink, checking on him. She kisses his head and tells him he's done more for her little girl than her daddy did his whole life, calling him a good man. Maggie checks the note and it says, ever done it in the hayloft? And her eyes widen. Glenn goes to the barn and sees it's locked up. He climbs a ladder up and she takes off running towards the barn. Glenn looks around and finds that the barn is full of walkers being held captive. Maggie finds him saying, "You weren't supposed to see this," as the episode ends. All right, bro, that's the ending. What'd you think?
Okay, so what's going on with you and the Asian boy? I was like, damn, Herschel. This whole convo with Rick and now Maggie. I mean, honestly, it makes you like, fuck you, Herschel. But this being my second watch and seeing why he feels this way, totally understand it. He's awesome. And all he's trying to do is protect his girls. And does he have sons? I don't know, but we'll leave that alone. All he's trying to do is protect his girls. And that makes total sense. I love his character arc and what we get moving forward, really. Here, when Dale says something about Andrea being Annie Oakley, I had no idea what that was. So I'm going to tell everybody. Apparently, she was an American sharpshooter in the 1870s. So more you know. The convo with Dale and Glenn, though, in the RV. First time I really loved Dale. Like him telling Glenn, I'd advise you to keep that theory to yourself about everyone being on that period. Had me dying laughing. Glenn, though, god damn. Dude is so young. I'll give him that. But my God, he cannot keep his mouth shut about anything. I love the, thanks for the book. You're right, it sucks. That made me laugh when he was leaving. Again, it's just great writing. And Daryl being shot, man, even though I've seen this before, I was like, okay, well, if this was my first watch through, if I didn't know that Daryl survived, this is where I would get pissed thinking that, well, okay, this is where Daryl just died. I would be super pissed if that's the way he really went out. And I'm just like, why is everyone in this group like a fucking idiot kids? Like Andrea doesn't listen worth shit. Shane doesn't listen. Daryl gets shot, and I thought he was done for. I swear. I was like, damn. Another season, another very awkward dinner scene. I love it. And damn, the barn revelation. Just what an episode. I do hate it for my boy Glenn, though. Man was about to get some more Maggie, and he had to go and ruin it with the zombies. Fantastic episode, though.
Man, Herschel, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Herschel's kind of an ass, huh? Damn, man. I think he's kind of a prick. And I can understand. I really, honestly, when taking notes, I'm like, man, fuck this guy. But then I thought about it for a little bit, and I'm like, all right, things were kind of normal and docile and peaceful before, and now things are a little bit crazier. We've taken in these stranger ? Now we figure out why, at least I think, he's so prickly here in a second. But man, he's such an ass. He just, I don't know, man, the way he speaks to Maggie and, the other conversations, he's a prick. I ain't gonna lie, man. Glenn, you gotta be able to keep a fucking secret, huh? Especially when you hit, right? I mean, that is just like, come on, man, you can't be spreading that shit around unless it's one of your boys. And Dale, of all people, is not the fucking person to tell. That's the last person I would have told that shit to. Andrea. She had a better fucking shot than Lee Harvey Oswald. Or whoever did that. I don't know who did it, but whoever did it. Whoever shot JFK. She was a better shot than that guy. That's crazy. Again, I'm not so sure I would even want to stay with Herschel at this point. Now, again, where else are they going to fucking go at the moment? I don't fucking know. But again, not so sure I'd want to stay. I will say, I'm going to give Lori the only just like slight little bit of credit here that I can give her, at least for a brief moment. She stood up for herself and kind of didn't let Shane make her feel some type of way, basically told him, hey, we're not your responsibility anymore. Rick is back. Find something else to have a savior complex about, which good for her. Now, again, Lori ends up not being my favorite character of all time or anything, but still, like in this moment, I thought that was good to see. This dinner is more uncomfortable than the Christmas Vacation one, man. Like, I'd have rather been there when Clark cut that fucking dry ass bird open than be at this dinner. That shit looked super tense and uncomfortable. And then we got two fucking people passing notes like it's the fucking 8th grade out here. What are we doing, man? Hey, I guess it's the simplicity. There's no texting, obviously. So, I guess that's the way to get your point across. Holy shit. My man is hiding quite a few walkers down there, buddy. And that is, I think, again, the reason we figure out that Herschel is being an ass. He is worried about people finding out. He's worried about what they'll do to the walkers. And I think he's just a little bit on edge compared to what he would be. I thought it was a great cliffhanger to end on. A little bit of a so-so episode that's saved to me by the last 12 minutes or so.
Yeah, Herschel has every right to be protective, and everyone's just doing whatever they want with no regard or respect for his rules. Glenn and Dale's talk was hilarious, like you said. This episode does have some good comedy in it. Andrea continues to suck. She's on a mission to prove that she's worthy, and she continues to make the wrong decision. I literally hate her. Daryl did have a good sense of humor about it, though, when he said I was kidding. Like, he goes, "You gonna shoot me? You gonna keep pulling that thing on me? You gonna use it?" Then he gets shot. I was kidding. That was fine. The dinner scene was funny, too. Everyone's enjoying a nice meal, and Herschel just looks disappointed that it's happening. It's like, why are these people in my house? Glenn and Maggie, they got busted passing notes like it's grade school. That was funny. And I know Maggie's stomach turned when she read Hayloft. That barn is her family's secret. I like that she didn't read it until he was already on his way there. Add some tension to the situation. Even though we don't know why yet, we can just see it on her face. And then we see her running towards the barn. But when we see what's in the barn, holy cannoli. Solid way to end the episode. Like I said, this wasn't my favorite episode, but it was fine. It did have some good comedy and a good ending. I gave it a 7.5.
You know who Herschel is in this episode? Herschel is Mike watching Mother. What the fuck are these people in my house? Like, what is just all that? Just
You're going to keep bringing that up,
that's Mike.
but am I wrong if I remove the religious aspect of Mother, which is kind of the whole point of the film? But on the surface, the whole movie can be avoided if people just fucking leave their house. That's it. Everyone would have a normal life. But I know that's not the point of the movie, and I didn't get it, and fart sniff and all that other shit. So yeah, go ahead. I actually didn't hate Mother.
It makes me laugh. It just makes me laugh.
Get out of my house is all I'm saying.
No, Mother is cinema. Y'all guys got any final thoughts or any fun facts you want to share?
I have one. This is actually the first episode in which Emily Kinney, who plays Beth, has any lines.
I've got two. The scene where Daryl falls into the water and sees his brother Merle. That was filmed at the Cochrane Mill Nature Center in Palmetto, Georgia. So if you want to go visit. And then the bombing of Atlanta in the flashback is the first time we see Operation Cobalt in action. It was covered in Fear the Walking Dead, but this is the first time in the Mothership series.
I have not seen the Fear of the Walking Dead. Me and Dustin discussed that, I think, too.
Yeah, I watched like the first, I don't know, maybe first half of the first season. That's all I've seen too.
Yeah, you did. Y'all talked about a lot of stuff there in that little, whenever I got booted.
I cut a lot of stuff too, because I want to spoil it for you.
Yeah, I listened to it back. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, sure.
All right, guys, here's episode 6 called Secrets. The episode starts with Lori and Carl feeding chickens. He tells her not to be worried. You're a housewife, as she tosses corn at him. Carl is super grim, saying the chicks don't have a mother. Probably got eaten. Everything is food for something else. Patricia takes the chicken and snaps its legs and puts it in a tote sack and wheelbarrows it to the barn, as nervous Nellie makes it to the farm. Patricia throws the chickens to the walkers in the barn to feed them. Glenn watches the barn through binoculars as Maggie says not to be so obvious. She gives him some snacks as he asks why her dad has a barn full of walkers. She tells him he must keep it to himself, begging him. Glenn is acting super nervous to T-Dog and Dale as Daryl lies in the tent and Andrea brings him a book. She asks if there's anything she can do, but he stops her, saying it's okay. She was trying to protect the group. But if she shoots him again, she better hope I'm dead. Glenn confronts Lori if she's told Rick yet and says she is too skinny and needs vitamins and meds, offering her his food. Rick assembles a crew to look for Sophia again, saying they need to be in pairs. Glenn hands out some apples and gives Shane his binoculars. Patricia and Bess say they want to join for gun training, as Carl tells Shane he wants to learn to shoot too. Shane stops Carl to see what kind of gun he has. He tosses his apple and takes the gun and gives it to Lori. Lori is fuming, wondering how it happened. Shane says Carl wants to learn to shoot, and Lori doesn't like that idea. Rick says Carl should learn to shoot safely, and Lori thinks what he says makes sense, and Carl speaks up saying he wants to find Sophia. Rick assures her Shane is the best instructor, and Lori tells Carl he will be responsible and live up to her expectations. Glenn tells Shane he's not going shooting, he's going to learn mechanics with Dale, who is right beside him. Dale confronts him, wondering what's going on. He spills the beans about the walkers in the barn and Lori being pregnant. Shane oversees the students shooting as Andrea impresses, shooting the no trespassing sign and the can with a new gun. She asks Shane about not leaving and if something changed his mind as he sees Carl and Lori. Daryl approaches Herschel in the house in the horse barn and tells about hearing the moans from the barn. Herschel says they killed a person, not a walker, in his well. Herschel thinks they're sick, not dangerous. My wife and stepson are in that barn. They're people, he tells Dale. Dale offers to help secure the barn, and Herschel questions the whole group's character. All right, Brian, opening set of scenes, what do you think?
You know, at the start of this, like, kind of seeing how cold Carl is about the chicken and how everything's just food for something else. The way that Lori just looks at him, like, as a father, I knew exactly what she was thinking in that moment because it went through my mind as well. He's getting so hardened. Like his childhood is being taken from him because of this world that they're living in. And I mean, at the risk of sounding corny, that's a really deep thing. And I get Lori as a mother and her being worried about it, but just think of like how it was 60 to 100 years ago. Like kids grew up at like 13 and were working on farms. And I mean, that's just the way it was. This is the world that they're living in now. And her having those thoughts on not having the baby too. I mean, I get it. This world is shit. That would have been a very hard thing to decide. And I know everyone has other thoughts on it, but you know, it's not a decision that she should make on her own is all I'll say, as far as my opinion goes on the situation. And shit, like here, as soon as Glenn uttered the lines, there's walkers in the barn and Lori's pregnant today, I went, God damn it, Glenn, like out loud. I went, God damn it, Glenn, because you just know, like, oh shit, here we go. And then shit, we get the revelation that Herschel's wife and stepson are in that barn too. Woo, goddamn, what an open.
Man, Carl out here turning cold. You know, not only that, you kind of touched on a lot of that stuff there, Brian. I had the same feeling, but also the way he said it to his mom felt really cold. And again, we're not like the biggest Lori fans, but that's still his mom, and he don't know all that other shit. So I don't know. I was like, damn, that's ice cold. Man, had a little bit more Shane in him. Oh, sorry. Anyway, I probably shouldn't say that.
No, she did.
But hey, thank you, buddy. I set that one up on a tee. I'm glad somebody hit it. Look, we're taking
Shane
this
hit
room full of walkers. Hey, God damn it. Can't have fucking shit in this house. No, I'm just kidding. The walkers don't want a chicken, man. They want human flesh out here throwing that thing at chicken. What's wrong with y'all? Glenn not being able to keep a fucking secret again. There's walkers in the barn and Lori's pregnant. Like that, honestly, it was fucking hilarious. But at the same time, why do we keep telling Dale this stuff? Again, like that feels like not the best person to tell. But anyway, every interaction with Shane and Carl makes me a little uneasy. It makes me a little uncomfortable, especially just because of everything that's gone down. But like, his dad knows how to shoot a gun. Why didn't he ask his dad? Like, again, it's just really awkward and really full of tension. And I don't not like that. I like that from a, I'm trying to be entertained standpoint. But again, it just makes me a little uncomfortable. And, Rick actually makes a couple of good points here. She obviously, I don't know what, she obviously just doesn't want him hanging out with Shane. Like there's some now, especially even though before Rick showed up, that's, that was totally fine. Now it feels like she just doesn't want her secrets exposed. And so again, back to me not really liking Lori that much. Maybe this is just me, but using cars in this world feels really, I don't know. At some point we're going to run out of gas, fellas. I don't know if taking cars all over the place is the best idea. Again, I've only watched up to season 3 in my real life. So if something, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
No, that's
because I know we're going to
do that's one of my biggest pet peeves in all post-apocalyptic movies. I've said it before on the show. Gas goes bad.
Yeah. Eventually gas does go bad. Can't use it. Not only that, you're going to run out of what you do have. So again, also, last thing here, I do feel for Herschel. Again, like I mentioned in the previous episode, we find out why he's being so prickly because he's kind of protecting a wife and kid in there, right? I mean, this is the idea that we have now. And again, I may not agree with how he handles everything, but now we have a reason. And if there were just a random group of walkers, I'd be like, fuck that, let's shoot these guys. But now there's some emotional ties, and I could understand not wanting to let those people go.
It's a pretty rough open here. I mean, those chickens did not deserve that, Patricia. I love eating chicken. Don't get me wrong. I do. I could eat chicken every day the rest of my life, be fine. But I prefer a humane death, or at least one that's out of sight. I don't see it. I know that Tyson's probably inhumane. I don't have to see it. Her just breaking the legs and tossing them in there, that was brutal. I laughed when Maggie said she's not trying to buy Glenn's silence with fruit. There's also jerky. That was funny. And Glenn was right, man. He does suck at lying. T-Dog just asked, what's up? And he almost folded. Like, what's up? I got to go. Daryl forgave Andrea way too easily. I would go eye for an eye with her. I'd shoot her in the head myself. Shane finding Carl's gun was solid police work. Like, he just noticed it was there. Shows that, I like that. It shows that his previous life relates. It's real. And he did the right thing by telling Rick and Lori. Shows that he's not all bad. Glenn being a bad liar again was good. He used Dale as an excuse not to go and didn't even look around to make sure that that was a good excuse to use. I like that Dale had his back, though. He's a real one. And man, it took absolutely no convincing for Glenn to just spill all the beans he had on everything. All Dale said was spit it out, and Glenn told both secrets with no hesitation. I LOL'd. Andrea being annoying again. Who would have guessed? Stop trying to look cool. Who says I didn't hit my target? Shut up. God. Tense talk with Dale and Herschel. I like how Dale said, if you watch the same broadcast I did, because it's crazy how people can watch the news and take away two very different stories. It's very relevant in today's world. It's a decent open again.
Lori makes it to Herschel when she thanks him for his hospitality. Herschel thinks they'll be moving on once Carl gets better and walks away disappointed. Shane is teaching Andrea to shoot a moving target on a rope. Shone goes into gunnery sergeant mode, saying she's too emotional. He keeps egging her on and says, shoot that son of a bitch. He goes too far, bringing up the walker that killed Amy, and they both walk away from each other. Lori asks Rick about Herschel wanting them to leave and wondering if anyone else knows. She's upset he never told her about this. Fucking hypocrite. He tells her not to look at him like she's scared, and he assures her he'll take care of them. Shane pulls up on Andrea in the car, and she refuses to ride until he stops in front of her. He gets out and tells her he crossed the line and was trying to rattle her. He tells her about a lead he has on Sophia and asks her to join. Dale is cooking some meat over a campfire and notices Lori make a nauseous face. He approaches her and says he knows she's pregnant because she's acting just like his former wife. He asks if she hasn't told Rick because of Shane. She starts to vent about wanting to feel something and regrets it now. She says memories are what keep her going, and she worries Carl's well is running dry. This baby will never have any good memories. Lori tells Dale to look her in the eye and promise her baby will grow up to be as old as him and live a happy life. She walks off when he can't promise her that. She goes to Glenn with a list of supplies and hugs him, thanking him. Glenn and Maggie are on horseback, and she's giving him the cold shoulder. She snaps, saying he betrayed her trust. He asks her what she believes about the walkers as they get off the horse at the drugstore. She snaps, saying they're not walkers, that's her family and friends. Glenn gives Maggie the list, and she storms off upset. A walker, Randy, orders her, and she screams for Glenn to help. He grabs a piece of the shelf, and Molly whops it in the neck. He finishes it off with several stabs to the head, and Maggie hugs him with tears in her eyes. All right, Brian, it's the next set of scenes. What do you think?
Now, okay, so you guys got to help me out here. I must have heard this line wrong. So can somebody tell me what Lori really said to Rick here? Because I know she did not say, I don't know how you can keep something like this from me. Talking about Herschel wanting them gone. Because I know I did not hear that correctly from double fucking cream pie Lori Grimes. Ungoddamn believable. I know that. Sorry, that was just a sneak peek of my inner thought watching the part.
Damn, I love
there,
Little Debbie's. Anyway.
Yeah. Dale and Lori's conversation. Like, fuck you, Dale. Goddamn. He could have kept Glenn's secret and gone with the whole, it's obvious because of you getting sick around cooked meat thing, but he threw Glenn under the bus quick as hell, too. But his talk with Lori, honestly, I love Dale so far this episode. It's what Nico said last show, where he talked about every character having ups and downs. And overall, yeah, I don't like Dale because of some of those stances and takes I called being a bitch of his, but through the season. But honestly, this is a very upside to him, in my opinion. He's really good in these scenes with Herschel and even Lori here talking about the baby. And it's not fair to Dale to put that on him anyway with the whole, you tell me my baby will grow up and be as old as you and happy. Because even in the old world, nobody can say that. Like, that wasn't fair at all. Like, fuck you, Lori. Love the Walker surprise in the pharmacy, though, too. That was perfect writing to just show Maggie what she really needed to see to open her eyes to what these Walkers really are and to, maybe start differing from Herschel's opinion a little bit and what she's been, taught at home. Not to hold on that there hope there is still a cure. But also, God damn, what a swing, Glenn. Swinging a board hard enough to knock somebody's head off. God damn, son, go ahead.
Again, we get a lot from Herschel here, and I understand where he's coming from, but man, like, he really is trying to push them out the fucking door, huh? Like, I expect he'll be moving on soon. God damn, man, he has no care for these people. And again, with a little bit of context, I get it. Like Dustin mentioned, they are kind of ruleless and wild, and he's trying to keep it, he's trying to keep a lot on the down low there, trying to keep things calm. but he really wants them to keep moving on. I actually really like this scene where Shane is egging Andrea on, right? Trying to get her all riled up. And of course, she kind of pouts, about it and runs off and just insufferable. But again, my man Shane, as he went and followed her, he ends up spitting game. Come on, come look for Sophia with me. Yeah, okay, Shane. You don't think I fucking see through that shit? I know what you're doing, buddy. This stuff with Lori and Dale and the baby is really, really good, right? I mean, I'm with you here, Brian. I'm not a big fan of Dale in general. He takes too many hard stances, which you touched on, but he is really good here, right? And I love, again, Lori, not my favorite character either, but the acting is great here. She tries to get Dale to promise him something and he can't do that. And like you mentioned, no one would ever be able to promise that. That is not, how this works. And so again, I can understand Lori's fear and just total, being overcome with the fact that this is a shitty fucking place to live. This kid that I'm going to try to bring into the world will never see happiness, will never see good, because we're always going to be running from something. And I can understand that feeling continuing to keep overcoming her. Now, I'm sure somebody will say, and maybe Dustin made the funniest fucking graphic I have ever seen. If you don't do that, if you don't eat Little Debbie's, it doesn't happen. So anyway, just throw that out there. I like the scene at the pharmacy as well, right? I mean, again, I like the chemistry with, Glenn and Maggie. And I like that she stood her ground at first, but had to have something almost terrible happen to her to get her to realize, oh shit, we're trying to protect our friends and family, but most of these walkers just want to fucking eat us. And by the way, so do the ones you're holding in that barn, whether you realize it or not. I think that's, again, what Glenn's trying to get her to open her eyes. But what a fucking swing. You're not kidding, buddy. And I know you appreciate this, Dustin. My man was like Balls Mahoney with that fucking piece of wood. God damn. He had a fucking swing. And if Balls Mahoney hit me with anything, I would fucking just probably want to die. So here he had the hardest swing in the biz. So go ahead.
R.I.P. Balls.
R.I.P. Balls. Sauce.
No pause needed. I love Shane badgering Andrea. Not so cool now, are you, Blondie? Hate her. Lori has some nerve to tell Rick that she doesn't understand how he could keep a secret like this from her. Girl, you are with child. Be for real. Good stuff with Lori when she wasn't mad at Glenn and asked him for help. I like that. Great jump scare at the pharmacy with Maggie almost getting got, but how did they not hear a walker in there? I'm not buying how quiet it was in that pharmacy. And while the head almost falling off was a cool idea, I thought the CG looked pretty awful on it. But I'll definitely forgive that because it was a cool kill. We got a close call, and we're setting up for the finish.
Yep, Shane and Andrea make it to a neighborhood, and they go peep some houses looking for Sophia. Maggie storms to Lori, yelling she got her stuff and she's not her errand boys. Maggie and Glenn talk. She calls him stupid, but then kisses him. She tells him he's smart, brave, and a leader, but he doesn't know it yet. They only see him as a peach picker and walker bait. She says she can't lose him walking off emotionally. Shane and Andrea make it in their first house, and she calls for Sophia. Andrea doesn't want to tell Carol about another dead end until a bunch of walkers appear. Shane clears the car as Andrea pisses down her leg, missing shots and struggling with a gun jam. She gets the gun fixed and starts shooting walkers calmly and swiftly, and they make it to the car, and she keeps shooting more walkers. Glenn goes to Lori, telling her Maggie was attacked. Lori apologizes, and Glenn asks about the pills and gives her some prenatal vitamins. Glenn offers some friendly advice that she shouldn't be the only one to make this decision and walks off. Andrea grabs Shane by the dick and he slams the brakes. Come on then, and she climbs over and mounts him in the driver's seat. Lori takes out all the morning after pills and swallows them and begins weeping, but she runs off and throws them up. Shane and Andrea show back up with no good news for Carol. Shane tells Dale the place was overrun as Dale gives him a nasty look. He stops him, suggesting maybe now is a good time for him to leave. Dale calls him out about Otis as Shane continues to deflect. I know what kind of man you are, he says, and Shane is fuming. Shane asks Dale, what do you think I'd do to a man I don't even like? Dale looks on in fear as Shane walks off. Rick goes in the tent and finds where Lori left the box of morning after pills. He's in shock and storms after Lori. Is there something you need to tell me? She tells him she's pregnant, but she threw the pills up. She asks him to talk to her, and he asks how long she's known. He's pissed and snaps, saying, do not put this on me. The two have different outlooks on life, clearly, as Lori breaks down wondering how they can bring a baby into this world. He says they can make it work. Shouldn't we try to figure it out? She says, not like this, not giving birth in a ditch. He tells her he can't live like this anymore and asks if there's anything else he should know about. She tells him about Shane splitting her shit, and he's way more understanding than I ever could be. The episode ends with the couple in a tense moment by the fence. All right, Brian, that's the ending. What'd you think?
Hated the way you put that. God damn. Holy shit, the rest of this episode, though. Like, it's starting off with Maggie just going fucking ham on Lori. And then we don't know what she asked Glenn to get her. Like, at least I assumed it was prenatals or something. Abortion pills? Wow. Like, we're getting deep in this episode. And honestly, one of the first of many fantastic emotional performances we will see from Lauren Cohen. The Andrea and Shane thing I thought was really good too. I'm not the biggest fan of Andrea either, even after all of this, but it was a nice moment and fantastic job by Shane to let her get that gun jam handled. And then he jammed her gun. Hey-oh. But the tension really amped up in that whole scene. And, it being right after the stuff with Maggie and Glenn, then that tense-ass scene with Shane and Dale, just calling his ass out. And after all the shit, Lori still didn't tell Rick, and he had to find the morning after pill package, and then we finally get to see the scene spilling everything between those two, and we find out Rick knew. Like, holy shit, what a fucking ending. Now the question, does he even ask Lori whose it is? So, just fucking another balls to the wall ending. I loved it.
Yeah, again, this stretch of scenes is probably the best thing out of both episodes, in my opinion. I mean, we really start to ramp it up here. I said it last week. I love the on-screen chemistry with Maggie and Glenn. And I like Maggie more than you guys, apparently, because I don't know what's coming, right? Like, I don't know what's coming in the far out. So, again, maybe I shouldn't. But I like that Glenn kind of has a little bit of a protector. Because I mentioned it last week, they do view him in a certain way. And I like that she called him stupid and then immediately just like, turning around and said, no, not the case. Kissed him. I think she's really starting to fall for Glenn. And of course, Glenn will fall for anything that touches his pee-pee. So again, we have a little bit of a romance here in this post-apocalyptic world, which good for them, man. You got to hold on to something. Just don't have kids. That's all I'm saying. Just don't have kids. Don't try to have kids. Don't be a fool, wrap your tool. So Andrea and Shane at the house, this is, again, another good scene, right? We finally, we get to see not the training that Shane has been giving Andrea, because that's being too generous towards Shane, but like, having Andrea use the gun, killing walkers, like, again, that was a nice moment. And apparently she thought it was a very nice moment because hippity hoppity on his cockity there. Good for him. And, again, Shane was setting that shit up. And y'all fucking know that. He can act like Mr. Good Guy all he wants. He knew what he was doing there. When he was egging her on and then said, hey, let's go look for Sophia. That was all fucking, man, that was Nico's favorite hobby, fishing. That's what Shane was doing. He was fucking fishing right there, brother. Again, as someone who used to work or manage a GNC, prenatal vitamins are super fucking popular. So there's a lot of pregnant people out here. Anyway, but again, ask Glenn to get her morning after pills and, to taking them and then immediately throwing them back up, again, would be super hard and super conflicting, because it would be so easy in this world to do it this way and just be done with it. But she does have a conscience. I think we know that, at least somewhat, right? I mean, again, I'm not trying to over defend Lori because I think she sucks. But like here, at least she has some kind of moral compass about her, and I can appreciate that part. I love this scene with Shane and Dale. I think it's great. And again, Dale's has a strong backbone, but is still a vulnerable guy. So when Shane kind of gets this look on his face and this certain tone in his voice, who the fuck wouldn't be scared of this guy? Especially when he confronts him about Otis. I know what kind of guy you are. Like, again, Shane's like, yeah, I am that fucking guy. He didn't say that, but he might as well have, like, I'm that fucking guy. Yeah, try and cross me, see what happens. So again, really, really good stuff here. And finally, we get this reveal, all these reveals from Lori, and it turns out Rick fucking knows. And again, just like, again, Nico said it in his scene by scene, handled it way fucking better than I would have ever been able to. I don't care what world we were living in. The shit would have hit the fan. That was not okay. Probably would have tried to fight Shane. Probably would have died trying to fight Shane, to be honest, because he looks like a madman. But yeah, I mean, again, great stuff. Really intense. And I love that this show about zombies has all this fucking other shit in it. Like, it makes it so much better than just like a Night of the Living Dead or whatever. Like, this is really good shit. Night of the Living Dead has a lot of subtext. I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, back at the farm, Maggie had every right to be upset, but I couldn't help but shake my head at Lori thinking Plan B would work at this point. Those only work like 5 days after the deed is done, not this long after, dummy. When Shane and Andrea were being swarmed, man, I really wish he would have just left her for dead, like pulling Otis. I was very hopeful. Andrea and Shane's middle-of-the-road coitus should have been the perfect catalyst for them to leave the group. They have each other. They deserve each other. Just go. Very intense stuff from Shane when he told Dale, imagine what I do to a guy I don't even like. Whew! I thought of Heisenberg. He's like, who do you think I am? I am the danger. I'm the one who knocks. That's how I felt. Great stuff when Rick confronted Lori about the pills. Very believable and realistic conversation and reactions and emotions involved. When she came clean about her and Shane, I got to say, I didn't expect her to ever fess up. But good on her for telling the truth. No more secrets. Her situation is exactly why I say secrets make babies. But I also got to wonder if, that had happened pre-apocalypse. Like, there's no zombies. And he comes out of this coma and finds out that it happened. How would he have reacted? I don't think it would have been this calmly. I think that he's so level-headed and thinking big picture. He's like, I can't blow up. I got to keep us together to keep us safe. So I like that dynamic as well. It's a good ending to the episode. It's another one that's not my favorite, but it was slightly better than episode 5, so I gave it an 8.
Very fair. You guys got any fun facts you want to share or anything else? Man, I'm excited for next week. Episode 7. Whew.
Elite.
Shit
Elite
starts hitting the
television.
fan, boys. I love that
Elite
episode, man.
television.
It's so good.
Can't fucking wait.
I didn't realize one of my coworkers has been rewatched. We were bitching about Netflix going up again for some reason. Right. But we were talking about, he's like, the only reason I got it is just to rewatch The Walking Dead. I was like, bro, I didn't know you liked that show. Like, we started talking about it. I was talking about season 2 and all that. He's talking about he loves it as well. And then he also mentioned that the governor in the next season ain't shit. He's terrible. But man, episode 7, man, whew, I'm excited to talk about it. I mean, it's such a good episode. I really love it. 10 out of 10 episode, if you ask me. Guys, this has been fun reviewing The Walking Dead season 2 episodes 5 and 6. I'm sorry I struggled so much to read tonight. Fighting for my life over here. But we appreciate everyone who tunes in. We hope y'all have been rewatching these episodes as well. Like, this has just been a good time checking this season out for the first time, chatting with you boys about it. We'll be back next week.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you next week. And in the meantime, take care of yourself.
Just want to remind everybody,